Hey everyone, happy Thursday. It's Jen Jurgervan from the Steinberg team. I am here today with the beautiful and amazing Liz Gaffney. Hi, Liz. From
Hello.
Liz Gaffney Design. She is just incredible and I've known her forever and I'm so excited to have her on today to chat with us. So I'm a realtor here in Steamboat Springs, Colorado. I work with the Steinberg team at Steamboat Sotheby's International Realty. And Liz is here today to talk to us about home staging. Woohoo!
Yeah,
So Liz, why don't you jump in and just talk a little bit about yourself, and then we can kind of tell everyone what we're doing today and jump right into how to stage your house.
perfect. Well, thank you for having me, first of all, and such a flattering intro.
Yay!
My name is Liz Gaffney. Jen and I go way back. On my first stint in Colorado, we actually crossed paths, but we date back even further to high school, which is insane. So it's so fun to be able to overlap with you and utilize our gained expertise to help others, and hopefully they get a lot of value out of this. So
Yeah, absolutely.
quick background, I started my own boutique interior design firm about 2 years ago. I've always loved design. I've always sort of practiced it and dabbled in it on the side. And I've, well, personal note, I've moved over 20 times and lived in 20 different residences all across the country, DC to California, small towns in Colorado to New York City. So that collective experience, I think, has given me so much appreciation for different aesthetics and spaces, because no two spaces are the same. And so
Right? Your New York City loft is pretty different than the ranch in Colorado.
exactly. So I'm just so grateful to be able to blend my passion for design with the ability and the experience I've had living all over the place, and being able to adapt my skill set to sort of any environment, which is what I hope to talk through with this staging conversation right now.
Yeah, and how cool is it too, Liz, that you're able to work with people all over the country? So even before all the COVID-19 craziness, you're doing things digitally anyways, right?
It's pretty amazing. I felt fortunate enough to sort of launch this virtual set of offerings, which includes staging consultations via video chat. More information on that on my site, but it has been, I think, such an important platform to have had come coronavirus, and to be able to, now that people are spending more time than ever in their homes, it's been a sort of a natural transition for me to be able to leverage that platform, which is amazing. Do you want to
Awesome.
hear how your business is adapting? Because real estate, I mean, as we're entering into spring buying season and selling season, how have you guys adapted?
Yeah, no, that's such a good question. And it's such perfect timing, like you said, because so many people decide to list their properties usually around this time, especially where I am in Steamboat. Ski season is wrapped up, things are melting, it's easier to move. So we're really gearing up for our summer listing and selling season. So this conversation is just absolutely perfect and so applicable to so many families here in Steamboat and all across the country. So
Yeah.
what we're doing is we're doing a lot of videos, which we do anyways, just kind of showcasing the interiors of properties. We're doing a lot of Matterports. So if you've never seen that, it's just like the dots that you click through. So you kind of feel like you're in the space. But we've also been doing a lot of virtual open houses, and you can see more about that on our Steinberg site as well. So that's really fun and just kind of a cool thing that we're doing. But I think with all that being said, let's dive in.
Yes, love it.
So, Liz, do you want to share our quick breakdown about how we're going to roll through this, so people kind of have an idea of what's coming up for them?
So first of all, I think we should touch on the purpose of home staging, because I think oftentimes for home sellers, it can feel as though it's like an unnecessary expense and there's not a real reason for it, except you and I both believe the reason is tremendous and the impact is tremendous.
Absolutely.
We'll get into that in a second, but then we're going to segue into what the main areas of the property are that should be really focused on. I'm a firm believer that hiring a staging professional is invaluable for this process to both expedite it, because it's stressful. Home selling and moving is stressful. So to alleviate that,
Which you definitely know because you've done it 20 times.
I feel like I kind of have it down to an art or science, one of the two, but I mean, it's a lot. The amount that's on your plate as you embark on selling or moving is tremendous. So I'm a believer that hiring a professional is incredible. I'm also a believer that a lot of this stuff can be done by yourself. So we'll touch on that as we go through. I also want to quickly mention that I just wrote a incredibly lengthy blog post on it. So like bookmark it, save it for a time that it pertains to your life. Like I'll link it below this video wherever we post it, but that goes into much greater depth on really applicable strategies you can apply to each place. But we're just going to touch on high level main areas that you should really focus in on because that's what buyers look for. Then we're going to talk about 5 red flags that are very common sort of faux pas in the staging world.
Perfect.
Easily avoided. And then at the end, just a couple inexpensive fixes that are some of my go-to DIY enhancement solutions.
Awesome. I love it. So we're going to hit on the main spaces that are important to stage for your home, plus additional details available on your blog. So we'll be sure to post a link to that. The 5 common red flags, which just so everyone watching this knows is like my favorite thing in the world because Liz is such a genius and just hits the nail on the head. And then of course the inexpensive fixes, which I think is something a lot of people want to hear, right? What can they do for an inexpensive price tag that will help their property move quickly and look really great to a lot of people? So without further ado, let's dive in. So, and just for the purposes of this conversation, guys, we are talking about an occupied home that a seller lives in, or just at least a furnished property. So this is not really for a vacant property. That's a separate conversation. So let's dive in. So Liz, why?
Though, one quick plug for vacant properties.
Sure.
Highly recommend having them staged because it is so
Definitely.
much easier for a buyer to envision how to utilize the space and feel more connected to it which we'll get into in just one second, when it is furnished. So highly recommend. There have been studies that show that it's much more effective to have it actually occupied with some furnishings. Anyway.
So, well, with that being said, so why should you stage your house? What is the purpose of staging?
My opinion is home buying is such an emotionally driven decision. Our homes are our sacred space where we spend time, where we get vulnerable, where we have time with loved ones. It's a big deal, and we spend a lot of time there, presumably, if it's our primary residence, especially. So it's not something that buyers take lightly. It's something, especially if it's a high dollar price tag, but pretty much any size price tag, it's really significant in their world. So home staging is designed to equip buyers with the capacity to see themselves living in that space.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about how you utilize the space as the seller. It's about what opportunities, what potential, what inspiration do I see moving through this new space that I could really find myself feeling comfortable there. That is going to be the driving factor between whether they decide to move forward and make an offer or not. And interestingly, people's decision-making capacity these days is so quick, either short attention spans or like expectations, whatever it is, they tend to form opinions of the place very, very quick. So I'm such a believer in this because you have such limited capacity to connect with that buyer. If they show up to that property, or even in this day and age, they're basing their judgment on the listing photos. If they decide really quickly that they're not into it, that's kind of game over and you're on to the next. So I find to do everything in your capacity to maximize the look and feel of your home, and we'll get into exactly how to do that, is absolutely essential for captivating those buyers quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, wasn't it a Malcolm Gladwell book where the slice judgment, right? It's like just nanoseconds that people make these decisions. So, you really, like you said, you want to make sure that your property, when it's listed, appeals to the most people it possibly can. So like you said, it's not about how you use the space. It's about how a buyer can envision themselves using the space, right?
And so many people are watching shows on HGTV and seeing these like fabulous flip remodels and these perfectly tailored design and decor, experiences on those shows, that I think they're, that sort of heightened their expectation of what to expect when they walk in somewhere. And I'm not saying that your house has to be absolutely flawlessly, impeccably designed, but you have to kind of raise the bar on what you're showcasing, because that will make buyers gravitate towards your home as opposed to others.
Yeah, no, I love that. Like I said, I think you hit the nail on the head. That's perfect, right? You're creating the opportunity for someone to see themselves in your space.
Totally.
And yeah, and I think too, especially in mountain properties like where we lived, Liz is headquartered in Denver. The views are really important, right? There are definitely attributes you want to make sure to highlight. So I think with that being said, and the idea that staging is the process of creating that canvas for your buyer to see themselves in your space. Mm-hmm. Let's dive into the most important spaces. What do you think they are?
Absolutely. So exterior, for starters, because there's bound to be the question of curb appeal. Exterior, front entry, living and dining and kitchen, master bedroom, master bath, and storage capacity. From a very high level, one quick thing it's like my little disclaimer as a staging professional. Home selling is also a very emotional experience. No matter how long you've lived in that residence, it can be, you feel like you're losing a part of yourself, or a chapter's ending, or whatever. It can dredge up a lot of emotion. And so as we go through this conversation, for anyone who's, considering selling their home and going through this process, keep in mind that the goal of the realtor and the staging professional is to turn your house over as quickly as possible, to save you time and money and headaches and frustration and confusion as to why the house is sitting on the market. So our goal is to always appeal to the masses, the mass buyer, which has such wide-ranging taste. And so any suggestions that we make, please try not to take personally as a hit to your personal style. It has nothing to do with that. We've seen time and time again what works, what doesn't, what appeals to people, what doesn't, what generates this feeling and emotion of connectivity with a space, and what doesn't. And it's just, our goal is to purely do right by you and help you close this property ASAP. So with that,
couldn't have said it better myself.
With that being said, try to keep your eye on that goal and not so much on the emotional process of detaching from your space, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And I think that kind of rolls into probably your red flags, but let's start with the spaces.
And again, my blog post details out more specifics by space itself, so I highly recommend checking that out. But here's some very sort of high-level 5 red flags that are so avoidable if you just know to look for them. So first of all, smell and temperature. The scent of your home will dictate a feeling. If you have old, musty scents, first of all, make sure that stuff gets cleared out to begin with. But you want it smelling refreshing and lively and vibrant and not dormant and musty, or pet smells. Some people are so turned off by the prospect of pets. Some people, don't really want to walk into a saturated place with lots of scent. What do you call them? Not
the Glade pop-up thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Highly recommend not using those because it's too. But opening your windows, letting some fresh air come into the space before every showing, having a few scented candles, lightly floral scented maybe, again, not like cinnamon or vanilla, something more subdued and more palatable for people is such a good touch, because they walk in and they go, I'm home. Hopefully.
What about food smells?
Oh my God. Highest recommendation. This is, okay, I'll just maybe skip forward to my last red flag, which is cleanliness. The expectation is that this home is deep cleaned from top to bottom. That includes old foods, that includes refrigerators, all cabinets, anything in sight, out of sight. cobwebs, dust, any residue, dirt buildup, windows, inside, out. I just cannot reiterate that point enough. That is when a house sparkles, you feel it. And when it is dim and musty and dusty, it is like so unappealing. So smells, yes, nasty food smells, pitch the nasty food. And then temperature. So depending on where you're located, whatever time of year, if it's 30 degrees in Steamboat or 110 degrees in Houston, you want to make sure that your house is properly climatized so it's comfortable when somebody walks in the home. If not, they're going to feel it right away and they're going to say, oh my God, what's wrong? What's wrong with the heating? What's wrong with the air conditioning? So smell and temperature, two things, very easy to knock out.
I totally agree. I mean, I can't say how many times that I've walked into properties in Steamboat in the winter and it's 85 degrees in a unit. I mean, it is when you're wearing a down jacket and like snow boots and you're prepared for like the freezing cold winter weather and it is oppressively hot in a house. I mean, that says something about the property and it makes people be like, whoa, I'm sweaty, I'm hot, like I can't even be in here, it's so stuffy. And on the flip side, in the summer, especially in Steamboat, we have so many beautiful views, right? Like one of those amazing attributes that you want to highlight. But sometimes the windows, if you don't have them open, if you don't have fans on and air moving, we don't have a lot of air conditioning. Houston, I know that's not you. DC, I know that's not you, but we're in the middle of the mountains. If those windows aren't open and the air's not moving and you walk in the summer at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, your buyer's going to think, oh my gosh, I can't live here. It is way too hot.
Totally.
My they're used to the air conditioning.
Is to usually keep it between like 68 and 72, kind of any time of year, but you gauge it based on, that's just kind of my general guideline. 68 to 72 degrees is typically pretty comfortable for most people.
Yeah, that's a great tip. And I mean, I think it's one too, like you said, people make those snap judgments, right? Hey, this feels good for me or this doesn't. And if they're not comfortable temperature wise or smell wise, if there's a pet smell or a food smell or a musty smell and it's hot or freezing, forget it.
Totally. Okay, the next red flags are light and color. So with respect to light, a lot of people can feel that a decision is make or break based on the amount of natural light that comes into a space. Some people are really turned off by that. If you're one of those that is turned off by that and you're selling your home and you have heavy blinds and drapery, highly recommend to either replace them with, a lighter, thinner fabric, open them, shutters open, blinds open, drapes open, curtains open anytime before a showing. That can be such a compelling reason for someone to fall in love with the space if they see that it gets a lot of natural light. Mm-hmm. Second thing on lighting is consistent bulbs throughout the home. Sometimes you'll walk into a space and there will be like a 60-watt bulb and then a 90-watt LED bulb or one that's really cold and one that's really warm. And it's so jarring to the senses, but it's so subtle. So just having consistent wattage and warmth. And I personally like a warmer bulb than a cooler bulb, but I will leave that to you and your realtor to discuss what sells best. But that just having that consistency throughout the home will be a more enjoyable experience for anyone walking through.
Absolutely. And I think just to piggyback on that too, right, is to make sure that all of your light bulbs work. You don't want to walk in a house and have like the primary kitchen light or sconce or lamp or by the bed or whatever be out. So just be conscientious of those small details, I think is part of that, right?
Totally. Also exterior lights. One of the things I say in my post is that a lot of buyers that are interested will drive by at night because they like to see the feel and get a sense of the street. And so having your exterior lights functioning properly is really a major selling point. But also having a couple rooms at the front of the house, maybe nicely lit up, it just adds to that evening curb appeal.
That's a really great tip. I really like that. People do drive by. Like I mean, what a no-brainer, but that certainly hadn't occurred to
Especially
me,
as they
so.
get more excited, they're like, "Oh, what's it gonna be like at all times today?" So you kind of, I mean, the selling process is stressful in that you kind of have to be on your A game all the time. Um,
Mhm.
I also have some tips for how to navigate that as a seller. Like, I'll get back to that in a minute. But color. Let's talk quickly about color. Color can
Sure.
be such a polarizing, um, unattractive thing for people. If you have brightly colored bedrooms or even a brightly colored exterior, that can be kind of a game changer because somebody internalizes that as, oh, I don't like that color. Suddenly that's a project. Now I have a laundry list of added expenses that I'm going to incur after I buy this place, and that's not really appealing. So to preempt that and just to make it a non-issue, going with something more in the white, the beige, the gray, kind of like my whole outfit as you get through. Um, it's just a surefire way to not turn off people, even if they end up wanting to paint themselves, fine. But the likelihood that you're going to attract a larger swath of buyers is greater if you have a more neutral palette working for you. And that's not to say like you have to go out and replace your couch if it's patterned or striped or whatever. Just try to dull it down with, you know, maybe a more neutral throw pillow or blankets, or just diminish it to the extent that you can, because sometimes that busyness is distracting, which is one of our favorite points that we haven't mentioned yet.
Ooh, you're right, it is.
Um, anything that's considered distracting, whether that's memorabilia, whether that's family photos, whether that's I don't know what else, books. You've probably seen weirder stuff going through some of these places.
Hey, once I walked
Animal
into
head.
a house and someone had a rack that wasn't in a closet. It was like, you know, on, you know, like if you watch a reality TV show and they have those clothes racks, you
Yeah.
know, of like S&M clothing
Oh
out
wow.
in their living room. I was like,
Right.
"Oh, lovely." Nothing against
So
that,
that
no
might
to
appeal
it.
to like 0.5% of the people that walk through there, and like the rest will be freaked out because
Yes.
they also associate it with like a past, a history, and a past, and they, as they walk into a space, they want to inherit a blank slate. They want to make
Mhm.
it their own. They're buying their own home, not your style or your weird isms that you used to participate in while you lived
Right.
there. So any distracting distracts from them appreciating the home. So my rule,
Yeah,
yeah, go.
yeah, and guys, like this goes to like even, and Liz, we've talked about this before, but like even having like your shampoos out or your toothpaste or whatever, you know, like no one wants to see that. And it makes them make a snap judgment about you.
Right.
So rather than have someone distracted by the products that you use or the brand of whatever or the weird stuff like hanging in your living room or, you know, any of those little things. Liz said this best yesterday to me. She said, anything that you're like that distracts you is taking you away from the idea of buying that house, even if it's just that fast. If I walk into a bathroom and you know, I see a brand that I love of shampoo, maybe that's exciting for me. But if I see a brand I don't like, I might be like, ooh, that person uses that. Like, ooh, what does that say about this house? I mean, it's little stuff like that. So just remove those distractions, right? No one wants to see your family photos, as beautiful as they may be. You don't want anyone to know if you have a family, the gender or age of your children. You know, those kinds of details you need to remove because, like Liz said, you want your house to be a blank slate and you want them to come in and be able to envision themselves there. And any pieces of you that the buyer sees in that house distracts them from seeing themselves.
Right. And there are
So,
ways
great
to,
point.
I think the criticism that comes with that is that you're taking away the like feeling of livability or the coziness, and you can infuse that in so many other ways through, you know, pretty but more generic art and um, minor decor pieces that are just neutral and ambiguous and like not related to holiday festivities or anything religious, or, you know, because you just, like you said, say you're a family of four and you have two young kids, you could be selling to two grandparents who have no kids, or
or to
don't
a single person who just wants
absolutely,
space for their friends to come crash. I mean, you just never know who your buyer is, and you want to appeal to those masses.
totally.
So as you know, as Liz and I are moving through this conversation, just keep remembering, like she said, none of this is personal. It's all about making your property as appealing as possible to as many people as possible, because the more people clicking and sharing and liking and scheduling showings, that's how you sell your property.
Totally.
Hmm.
Totally.
So
Um,
for our red flags so far, just to give a quick recap. So we've got smell and temperature, keep everything super comfortable, super neutral, nothing overwhelming. If you're going to go with a scented candle, a light like floral or linen scent.
mhm,
And then next is the natural light and color.
mhm.
So even if you're a person who has blackout shades or likes heavy drapery or whatever, just make sure that everything is open and fresh and that air is moving through. And with color, that also means just making sure everything is as neutral and light as possible. So you also have to remember too, Liz touched on this briefly, people typically don't want to come into a home and do projects unless it's being marketed as a fixer upper. That's a totally separate conversation. But if you have this beautiful home full of all these really deep wall colors, it's expensive and hard to paint over navy blue or crimson red. So make sure to neutralize those in at least the most important places in your house before you get some photography done, because people make those snap judgments and they're clicking through your pictures and they're like, ooh, hot pink or neon yellow or whatever. I can't deal with that. Like, next, off the list. And I know that sounds crazy, but people make those judgments. So it's a great recommendation. So color and natural light are that second of the 5 red flags.
And as it relates to projects, one other thing I would add is if you're nervous about the expenditure that you have to output before you list your place, because I know there are a lot of costs associated with selling your home and you want to get the biggest bang for your buck, create a list, put all of your to-do projects that you've been contemplating or areas that you think could be room for improvement on a list. Talk it through with your broker. See what their take is on the value versus the return, and that can help you feel guided towards what's worthwhile, what's not. And in most cases, I would say hands down every time they recommend, we all recommend neutralizing the paint colors. Um, next.
Sure.
Next
Yeah.
one? Okay. So storage. Everyone is obsessed with storage right now. I don't know if it's because we consume so much as a society, but that is such a red flag for so many people looking at homes. Meaning, if I guess like my general advice is to go through every drawer, every cabinet, and also just get prepared mentally because everything is going to be looked through. Nothing is off limits when you are showing a home. That curiosity drives people to look in the randomest places. So you've got to be prepared for that. But especially if storage is kind of an issue, or your belongings feel like they don't really fit quite well, I say cut everything in half. Every drawer, cabinet, closet in half. Pack that stuff away, put it away, give it away, whatever. Like, this is a great time to, you have no choice but to kind of do this anyway. So like you can go through your stuff meaningfully and pack it away and it'll benefit you in the long run when you are going to move. But organized, like whatever remains, have it be organized and nicely put away. Because the second that somebody senses that there's stuff pouring out of cabinets and cupboards, they're going to perceive it as there's not enough space, there's not enough storage, how is my stuff going to fit, this is a problem, maybe I have XYZ kids, that they have so much gear, who knows. But that can be a huge game changer.
And, I think that even goes, Liz, like you were saying, people are obsessed with storage right now. Like, how many people have seen just like beautiful walk-in closets on HGTV, these like total paradise, setups for master bedrooms and bathrooms, even as simply something as simple as take all the towels out of your closet, refold them nicely and uniformly, and put them in a very organized way. Even if your towels are older or whatever, at least they're not like shoved in there. And the visual appeal for the buyer when they open that linen closet and they see those nice stacks of towels and hand towels and washcloths or whatever, or sheets, like nicely folded sheets rather than like a ball all wadded up and shoved in somewhere, that visual appeal is very like calming. It makes them feel like you said, oh, well, my things will fit in here. Look at how nicely they have it done. Okay. And they can move on to the next thing and focus on those highlights, those attributes of your property, rather than being distracted or concerned by something as simple as an unruly closet. So I think that's a really good tip.
And it communicates that you care. You care about your belongings, which in turn to them makes it feel like you care about the property. So you've taken good care of the property over the years. It's little tiny subtleties that really add up to giving somebody a full impression if they've gotten past that first 7 to 10 seconds where they've created a snap judgment.
Yeah. And I think too, sorry, just to throw this in there, if you're living in the property, grab a nice looking basket or a plastic bin. And if you're showing that morning, go ahead, grab your toothbrush, grab your toothpaste, anything that's on like your countertop, stick it underneath your sink, grab those shampoos and stuff out of the shower, stick it underneath the sink. Like, let spaces be that blank slate for people and use the storage that you have to your advantage to achieve that goal.
Right. I even advocate for putting it in a plastic bin and like taking it with you. Same goes for dirty laundry. Gosh, what else? Any pet toys or pet needs. I don't know, just like if you can store it in a garage, or I know not everybody has the luxury of a storage unit or that extra space, but because again, they're going to open up that cabinet down below, the sink and the vanity. Like if you can get it out of there completely, you're golden.
That's awesome. I love that tip. It's so smart, and I mean, no one wants to open up your junk drawer and see like 10,000 cords and old sunglasses and all that. So that's just such a great tip. Like, what a smart, easy thing to do that you're going to have to do anyway. So I love that one.
It rolls into inexpensive fixes because this is all stuff that you can do yourself. This is all your personal belongings. Maybe buying a couple of plastic bins for, spillover storage or stuff that you want to keep close at hand but need to put away quickly. You can still, it's still such an easy, surefire way to make such a drastic improvement without spending a whole lot. The last of the red flags, so we have smell and temperature, natural light and color, overstuffed cabinets and drawers and storage. Personal belongings, personal belongings can be too distracting. That sort of sums up everything we've talked about already. I won't beat that one too much, but anything that's in your cabinets and drawers and closets is reflective of your personal taste and your personal style. So that's just another plug for condensing it down. It's okay if you don't have that glorious master walk-in closet. It's okay. People can wrap their mind around it as long as they perceive it that there is sufficient storage that they can work with.
Oh, I can see my stuff in here. This will hold my winter jackets and my summer stuff and all my different ski things and my climbing gear, right? You want them to have that space to imagine themselves and their activities and their life in your space.
Exactly. And then the last red flag is cleanliness, but we kind of touched on this to begin with. I can't harp on this one enough. I am so neurotic about it. Every surface, every wall, inside, outside, it just speaks volumes to the care and the value that people are buying. Do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, my favorite saying is grimy is gross. Grimy is gross, Yes. And sometimes it's stuff you can't help. So for example, if you have hard water, right? Hard water can make your fixtures look unclean, right? Get some CLR, scrub it, put in a little elbow grease, right? We have hard water where I live, and I sometimes actually soak our shower heads, just things to keep things looking really nice. If you have a property with a lot of wood in it, consider just, pledge everything, right? And then give it a good layer of Old English, right? Make it look sparkly and fresh and new and clean. Because if you walk in and you see something that looks more, old and beat up and dirty and dusty, whatever, I mean, that takes away again from the other beautiful parts of your house. Like, who cares if you haven't replaced your baseboards in 20 or 30 years if they look great? But if they look gross and beat up, then that's another, oh my gosh, I have to replace all of these baseboards and doors. Like, this property's at the top of my budget. The view is amazing, but can I live like that?
Right.
So I think, all these things just really go back to, again, creating that environment where you walk in, where you're just like, like you're looking at the things that are going to sell the house. You're looking at the view, right? You're feeling the natural light, you're loving the neighborhood, all the things that are going to really sell this property for you. And Liz, I think you actually said this the other day to me, and I just thought it was so powerful. When you're staging your home, you want to be able to walk in and think about how you feel when you walk into a beautiful hotel. What are the things that make a beautiful, expensive hotel beautiful and expensive? And that make you feel relaxed there, right? Like you said, it's the temperature, it's the smell, it's the light, it's it's how clean it is. You can't, when you walk into a beautiful boutique hotel, or even, if you walk into a Four Seasons, it's immaculate. And you're just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I love this place. You want your home to be that clean and feel that comfortable, because then you immediately, in your head, the buyer is settling themselves in. Oh, I could just see myself here sipping coffee or enjoying grilling on the deck with my friends. And I love to have people over. What an entertainer's kitchen. Whereas if you're missing these tips that you ran through, right? The smell, temperature, the natural light and color, the storage, the personal items, the cleanliness, if those things are off, you're not thinking about those things. You're thinking like, oh, this place is kind of dusty, or, ooh, it doesn't smell that great, or, it's kind of dark in here. Like, so when you're doing these things, that's what you're doing.
Tag on that, one thing that just came to mind is like, I don't remember what the Four Seasons rooms look like, or the Ritz-Carlton lobby looks like. But what I remember is how it made me feel. And it made me feel instantly elevated. I wanted to stay there for a while. I felt at home comfortably in like luxury land. So it's less about the remembrance of the specific items that are in the place and more about the feeling that it imparts on the occupant. So just to reiterate that again, it's like, it's about how it makes you feel.
No, I love that. I think that's amazing. And it's exactly what we're talking about, right? You want to appeal to the masses. You want to highlight the attributes of your property. And by doing and controlling those 5 things, you're really creating that blank slate opportunity for someone to come in and just be like, this could be my house.
Totally.
It just gives me chills. It makes me so excited for all the people out there doing it.
I want to help you.
I know, right?
Fun. It's so fun. I mean, I wish people did this like more often partway through their home ownership experience so that they get to enjoy it, because the reality is they tend to end up loving the changes and the cleanliness and the vibe and the energy, the newfound energy in the space, that it's a shame if you only get to experience it towards the end. But
yeah. Well, I mean, with those things being said, Liz, let's roll into like your favorite inexpensive fixes, just in general, or maybe as how they relate to certain areas of the home.
Perfect. Fresh greenery is such a easy, beautiful way to infuse liveliness without having to spend a lot and like buy things that you don't necessarily see yourself holding on to for a long time to come. Fresh linens, towels, shower curtain. You can literally go to Walmart, Target, TJ Maxx, Home Goods, and spend maybe $100 to liven the linens in each of like bedrooms and bathrooms. It makes such a difference. And I know we talked about this, like you sometimes go to these dated condos or homes that have duvet covers from the 80s that have like a giant moose on them. And that's not what modern day buyers necessarily want to see. it might make it feel like it's from the 80s. So we always recommend fresh white, just plain simple. It gives the feel of a spa, and it's just, it's really clean. But like a new liner on that shower curtain, again, like just goes a mile for making people think that the home is being taken care of well. And
Love it.
I have more of these sort of intertwined in my blog post too, so you can like just kind of click through specific examples. But then what else? Oh, for pantry space, for example, obviously you're still going to have a collection of food in there, but putting some baskets or jars in there to sort of organize it and make it feel more freed up space-wise is a really nice touch. And it kind of inspires people to want to live like that too. I won't show you the interior of my pantry right now, but I can use some of what I'm preaching right now. Another great fix is, so we talked about the personal photos and memorabilia. It's oftentimes like, if you like the placement of the frames that you have, just swap out a picture of a natural landscape or an object or some sort of abstract art that's like pretty neutral. But again, the goal is to appeal to the masses and to have buyers literally just walk past it and not really think twice about it other than, oh, that looks nice, you know. But if they're fixating on, oh, what's the graphic in that, or what, you know, questioning what, like if they stop and pause and go in depth with an object in your home, that defeats the purpose of giving them a full, you know, it's distracting, like we said. So just swapping out, you can cut them out of catalogs, you can find them in magazines. I just love that one because it's literally so easy. What else? Art and decor, again, Walmart, Target, Home Goods, they typically have a lot of just kind of similar pieces that you'd find on an HGTV show, and like they always have them in stock and they're really inexpensive. So if you're feeling like your shelves are a bit bland, or a coffee table setting could use just like a little hint of style, highly recommend just, you know, $100 to go collect a few items. Whether you keep them or not, you could return them. I don't know, whatever is an ethical practice I'm into. But yeah, I think that's it for right now.
You had one the other day that I'll just throw out there again because I loved it and I'm going to use it. It's using glass.
Oh, yeah.
You can say it. No, you.
You know those hideous soap dispensers that you keep on your counter that are plastic and one-time use, like Dawn or Dove or whatever? Swapping them out for glass bottles, again, so inexpensive, but just adds like a slightly elevated touch. Same thing in the kitchen for like new dish towels. I know my dish towels are so ratty and like need to be replaced immediately. And like I would be embarrassed to show my place if I had one of those laying out. And I think one thing that occurred to me when I was writing my post is coronavirus is probably going to intrigue people to wash their hands a little bit. So having a nice towel for them to use and soap is like a little nice, sweet touch.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's great. So just to kind of recap some of these inexpensive fixes, right? It's greenery, neutral bedding. I love that one. That's probably my favorite one, just so you know. I think it's like just the easiest, simplest thing. The towels, swapping out frame, like if you like where your frames are, even cutting things out of magazines for landscapes and just neutral colors. That's a really good one. The glass containers, and then organizing your pantry with bins and glass jars, that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, totally. And in the process of paring down your closets and your overstuffed spaces, take the opportunity to like label your boxes, whether it's plastic or cardboard, whatever, wherever you're planning to store them. You're doubling your value, because when you go to move, like I said earlier, it's going to be so much more seamless because half of your stuff is already packed and done for you. So
woo! Anything to make it easier. No, that's good. I mean, I think that you did such a good job, Liz. Like, I'm so inspired. I'm like, what can I do in my house today?
Yeah.
So nice. But I think like just to kind of recap what you're saying, the goal for your stager and for your realtor is to move your property as quickly as possible. And that means to have it appeal to the majority of people who are going to be looking at it. The way to do that is by depersonalizing and decluttering to create a blank canvas. So when a buyer walks in, they instantly feel comfortable and they can focus on the attributes of your home rather than be distracted by your personal items.
I thought of something I don't think we touched on super a lot, but it is very important. The going back to like individual spaces themselves, the reason I didn't go into so much detail on them is because each space has its own unique components to it, and every home has its own highlights and incredible features that you want to play up versus those things that you want to sort of, tuck behind the curtain a little bit, if you will.
We all have those things.
Yeah, but in the main living spaces that buyers are most focused on, like we said, master bedroom, bath, living and dining and kitchen, they want to get a sense of how they will live in that space. So you don't have to fixate so much on the actual furnishings that you use. We would argue less is more, because it just makes the house feel bigger. But to be able to see a space and see a dining table and chairs in there, it alerts the buyer to thinking, oh, that's where I'll eat dinner. That's where our dining table can go. Or, oh, that's how we could maybe configure the living room. Or, oh, that's where we'll watch TV if it's separate from, a more formal living space. So just like helping the buyers, I guess, as you're going about this, helping the buyers to see the purpose of a space is so much more valuable than being obsessive over like the actual components that you have in that space. Would you agree with that?
100%. Nail on the head. Boom. You should be in construction, girl.
So
yeah, no, I think that's perfect. I mean, you're like, again, like you said, you're creating the purpose of that space. Don't be overly concerned about the items in that space, but let the buyer know how they will live in this house that could be theirs sometime in the future.
Yes.
Yay! No, I love it. I just think this is so great. It's so valuable. I mean, how many people are out there right now trying to get their properties ready to sell and they're like, I don't know where to start. I think this is a great place for you to start. So one more recap, right, guys? Because I know you're out there with your pens and your papers. So we're worried about smell and temperature. We're worried about natural light and color. We're thinking about your overstuffed cabinets and drawers, removing personal items, cleanliness, your easy fixes like adding greenery, changing bedding, putting glass containers in your bathrooms or in your kitchen storage areas, and creating purpose in spaces so buyers have the canvas to envision themselves living their life. Right?
Perfect.
So Liz, where can all the people find you?
Yes, LizGaffneyDesign.com. I write a blog also, as I reference my blog post. I kind of tap into wide-ranging subjects, so I'm constantly updating that. But you can also find more information about my virtual consulting for staging purposes, which hopefully comes in handy for this period of time especially. But I would love to help you, and I would love to connect with you guys. If you have questions, since we did this in a pre-recorded format for tech purposes, very smart, feel free to send me a direct message on Instagram, Liz Gaffney Design. I'm on LinkedIn, Pinterest. I'm Googleable.
Right. And hey, guys, follow Liz on Instagram. Like she said, Liz Gaffney Design. Like I mean, I have so much fun just looking at people's faces on her page. It's such a blast. It's like the ultimate scroll hole. So if you're looking for a good scroll hole during COVID-19, Liz has like the most fun content and it changes all the time. And she's so engaged on her page. So go check out LizGaffneyDesign.com, Liz Gaffney Design on Instagram. You can find her on Pinterest, all those places. And for now, thanks so much for joining us. We had so much fun with this conversation, and we can't wait to help you with any of your design or real estate needs. All right, everyone, have a great day. We'll talk to you later.